The truth no one dares to say is that you were once buried not to end but to rise in a way that makes even the ones who covered you with dirt tremble when they remember. You could not see it when darkness surrounded you, but the ground that held you was never a grave. It was a cradle. A doorway. A place of becoming. And the moment they thought you were gone forever was the moment you quietly began to sprout. The people who once believed they could write the final chapter of your life are now living in rooms filled with the echoes of their own voices. If you saw them now, you would not see victorious smiles or eyes bright with confidence. You would only see a silence so heavy it feels like the air is collapsing. A silence that would shatter into muffled cries if touched even gently. The same people who once stood before you with pride and lips sharp enough to cut a heart with their cold words are now sitting in the dark with lowered heads and trembling hands as if frightened by themselves. They once thought you were fragile, easy to break, easy to crush. They believed a single push, a single word, a single betrayal was enough to end your life for good. But they never knew that some souls only grow stronger when pushed into the deepest places. They never knew that sometimes patience is not weakness but the quiet strength of someone learning to stand on their own. And they never knew that you, with every crack they left behind, have become someone no hand can ever press down again. If someone opened their door right now, they would only see pillows still marked with tears and eyes swollen from the crying they will never admit. They will say they are fine, they do not care about you, their life is untouched. But in that room where the light is too dim to hide the truth, they are tasting the same silent collapse they once wished upon you. You stepped out of the darkness not with noise, not with struggle, but with the steady strength of a seed pushing through heavy soil to reach the light. That strength is what shocks them. You did not beg them to believe, you did not beg them to understand, you did not beg them to return. You simply stood up and walked forward, and from that moment the story they built about you began to crack. They were never ready for the day you would rise. In their imagination you would always be the one who bowed, waited, asked permission, tried to please. But when your silence no longer meant hurt but peace, they felt something slip from their hands, a power they once used to control you. When you no longer explained, no longer tried to please, no longer reacted to their quiet stabs, they felt an empty space open inside themselves. And in that shock they began to understand that what you carry in your heart is not weakness but a strength they cannot match. You opened a new chapter of your life as if no weight had ever pressed on you. That quiet, steady rising is what brings them to their knees in their own darkness. Not because you hurt them, but because your existence exposes what they tried to hide. Every step you take forward shines light on the shadows in their souls, the ones they fooled the world into ignoring. They look at you and realize the story they once wrote about you no longer convinces anyone, not even themselves. And as their faith in their lies collapses, they collapse along with it. In that silence a line from Psalm 30 rises like a breath your soul has always known. He turns mourning into dancing, turns garments of sorrow into garments of joy. Those words are not about victory over others but about a deeper truth. The darkness they pushed you into never had the right to take your light. You may not see that light fully yet, but it has already begun to shake the places where you were once brought low. Every step you take awakens a new balance in the universe. A balance where those who planted harm must now face the shadow of their own actions. It is not you seeking revenge. It is your life rewriting the order. Now you stand at the threshold of something they never imagined, a resurrection in quietness. A rising that needs no drums, no witnesses, yet has the power to make those who once stepped over you tremble as they look back. You did not return to prove anything. You returned because the life within you never went out. You returned like the sun after a long night, not asking permission, not needing applause, simply appearing and letting everything rearrange itself around you. And in that moment you become something they cannot deny. They look, they remember, and they admit to themselves they were wrong about you. Wrong in the most bitter way. Amid all these reversals you do not need to speak. Everything speaks for you. They once thought they were burying you to end a story. But they never knew they had planted a seed carrying a harvest they could never stop. And now as the ground breaks open and you rise from the deepest place, the whole universe seems to whisper one truth: you never belonged to the darkness they placed you in. You belong to the dawn. And that dawn in its own way is calling you into the part of your journey even you have never imagined. And when that dawn rises, the old layers of earth begin to fall from your shoulders like memories that no longer carry weight, revealing a truth you never expected. Every wound that once marked your heart turns out to be only the beginning of a larger process. What they did to you seemed powerful enough to break your spirit, yet it only made you sharper, clearer, and more unshakable than any version of yourself before. From where you stand, the light now shines on the scars that once brought you shame. They are no longer signs of defeat, but proof of a strength nothing can swallow. Every word they spoke, every look of contempt, every small scheme whispered in the dark once made your heart shrink as if it wanted to disappear from the world. But now when you look back, those things did not push you to the edge as they hoped. They became quiet lessons where you learned to breathe in the cold air, to stand alone when the world turned away, to keep the light in your heart even when every signal around you went dark. You do not know when that loneliness began to transform. It stopped being an emptiness that wore you down and became a quiet ground where you could see yourself more clearly. In that place you began to notice invisible threads weaving your old pain into something with shape, a journey. A map. A path hidden from your eyes until you were strong enough to face what once made you tremble. Your enemies, and even those you never expected to hold ill intentions, were used to your reactions, your explanations, your defenses. They were used to the confusion in your eyes each time you were pushed into a corner. They were used to your attempts to keep peace, to prove you were not the villain in the story they created. And they believed that if they kept pushing, you would fall again. But they never knew there was a moment, a long night somewhere, when you realized you had nothing left to lose, and in that moment you broke free from the role they expected you to keep playing. When you stood up, they felt as if they had lost a familiar tool. Lost someone to blame. Lost a shadow to make themselves shine more easily in their false stage. And from here panic began to rise in them, not a fear that you would seek revenge, but a fear that they would have to face their true selves when there was no one left to hide behind. You look back at the past, where they laughed when you stumbled, where they secretly rejoiced when others believed the wrong story about you. They once thought those moments were victories. But they never knew they were only adding more weight to pull their own lives down. The pain they planted in you did not disappear, it returned, not to crush them but to reveal the decay hidden inside their intentions. The lies they believed were too skillful to detect now show themselves in every crack they try to cover. None of them were ready for this truth. The power they thought belonged to them was actually built on your sacrifice and patience. When you stepped away from that role, they shook. And when you stood up, they shattered. In that quiet you realized that your enemies do not hurt because you succeeded. They hurt because you did not collapse as expected. They hurt because your existence contradicts the story they whispered into the ears of others. You are no longer the fragile character they imagined. You are the living proof of a truth they never wanted to face. Psalm 27 rises like a soft confirmation in your heart: the Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? Those words were once something you heard in passing, but now they describe your journey better than anything else. Not a light from outside, but the light within, the one they tried to extinguish in every possible way but never reached. From where you stand, the things that once frightened you are now only echoes of a storm that has passed. You remember the nights you cried alone, the questions that kept returning: why did they treat me this way? What did I do wrong? Will I ever rise again? But now when you see the new shape of yourself, you understand that the answer was never in the details but in the patience of a seed growing in the dark. A seed that needs no applause, no recognition, only one thing: to live. And you lived. Not the dim survival of someone barely making it through, but the steady growing life shaped by every pressure placed on you. Because of that, every step you take now becomes a bell waking your enemies from their false dreams. They do not cry because you are strong, they cry because they never saw that strength from the beginning. They cry because they wasted their lives building walls of illusion around themselves only for a new version of you to crack them with silence. This is what exhausts them the most. They can no longer stop your steps. They can no longer stain your name the old way, because anyone who looks at you now sees a light no story can hide. They can no longer pull you down with mockery because your heart is no longer in a place they can reach. You did not just walk out of their hands. You walked out of the world they once trapped you in. And when you look toward the road opening ahead, you understand that your old pain is no longer a burden. It is a stepping stone. A foundation. A force shaping you for the journey that dawn was only beginning to introduce. This part of the journey is not the final chapter. It is the first breath after a long sleep. A deep quiet breath that tells you what lies ahead is greater than anything you once believed you could carry. And you begin to walk forward carrying a light no one can extinguish, moving into the part of the story where the truth is not only seen but lived. The light you carry seems to change the space around you, making everything once familiar turn into different versions of itself. And from within that change a quiet truth begins to appear. You are no longer silent in the old way. That silence is no longer the heavy garment of endurance, but the stillness of someone who knows the worth of every breath, every step, every decision that needs no explanation. This is what makes those who once looked down on you uneasy in ways they cannot put into words. The eyes that used to see you as something predictable are now filled with fear, even if they try to hide it behind awkward smiles. They watch you from a distance, not because they care but because they cannot look away. Everything you do, even the smallest details like the calm in your eyes or the way you walk past their whispered hints, reminds them of something they hate to admit. You have stepped out of their control forever. No more reactions. No more panic. No more seeking approval. Only a quiet composure that leaves them feeling exposed beneath layers they once thought were power. You do not see them gathering in bright rooms trying to explain why things turned out this way, why the person they once believed they could crush at any moment has become someone they cannot even face. They still try to repeat the old story, but every time they speak they hear the emptiness in their own words. Because no matter how much they cover it, the truth stands there in your presence. You have become a silent proof, and that frightens them more than any argument ever could. Your change reflects them like still water. In it they see the faces they once hid, the faces of envy, cruelty, and smallness they believed no one could notice. But you do not need to expose anything. You only need to stand firm. And that firmness pulls everything they hid out of the shadows. Psalm 25 rises in the depth of your soul like an explanation. You no longer need to search, for the Lord reveals His covenant to those who fear Him. You understand that your rising is not revenge but the response of a force greater than you, a force that saw what they did in the dark and chose the perfect moment to lift you in a way no one can stop. There are moments when you wonder why they are so haunted by your life. Why every step you rise makes them tremble, as if you were shining light directly onto their secrets. But then you realize you once were the backdrop for the roles they played. They needed you small so they could look bigger, needed you quiet so they could hear themselves, needed you down so they could stand tall in the eyes of others. When you rose they lost their stage. So the pain they feel now is not the pain of being hurt but the pain of losing their precious mask. And they do not know how to live without it. While they struggle, you continue to change. You no longer walk with the trembling heart of the past. Your heart is now like a small flame relit after a long winter. It does not blaze wildly but burns with a steady endurance nothing can put out. And you walk with the rhythm of someone who knows what they seek is not in the hands of others but in the depth you uncovered through your own pain. In that place you find something they can never touch: self-mastery. Not the kind that fights against someone but the kind that frees you from everything that once held you back. And that self-mastery makes you peaceful in a way your enemies cannot understand. They were used to seeing you try to prove something. Now you do not need to. They were used to seeing you explain yourself whenever you were misunderstood. Now you do not bother. They once thought you could not live without their approval. Now they realize the dependent one was never you. And that empty space, the space you leave behind in the role they once placed you in, becomes a wound they cannot close. You keep walking and the road before you widens in a way you have never seen. No more tangled walls built by others' doubts. No more narrow paths you had to bow your head to pass. Only a wide open field where you walk without asking permission, where every breath carries the feeling of freedom. In that wide open space you feel something new. You are not walking alone. Not because someone walks beside you, but because the guidance you once missed now becomes unmistakable. It does not speak with words or draw a map, but it lets you know that every step matters, even the ones that once felt pointless in the darkest nights. And when you lift your eyes toward the light stretching ahead, you feel something deeper. You have stepped out of the part of the story they once wrote for you. This is no longer the world where you must defend yourself against every word, where you must brace yourself to survive judgment and lies. This is the part of the story where you write each line yourself, with steady hands, with a heart that is not clenched, with eyes that no longer look down. Before you step fully onto that road, a gentle invitation touches something deep inside you. If this journey awakens anything in the heart of the listener, a memory, a sign, a resonance, let it be spoken. So this journey is not only your story, but a path someone else can recognize as their own. If they feel the connection, let them leave a sign, a word, or a presence by staying with this journey. Not to be loud, but so the light knows it is being seen. You keep walking, carrying that powerful stillness, moving into the part of the story where truth begins not only to appear but to become the force shaping the direction of your entire life. That stillness follows you like a thin halo of light, and as it spreads, the masks they once wore begin to crack line by line, as if your light were shining straight through the layers of makeup they thought would last forever. They were used to their roles, the kind one, the understanding one, the innocent one. For years they confidently wore those faces before the world, living easily under the applause they believed was real. But when you stood up with a quiet steadiness that made no noise, their masks began to break. Not because you tried to peel them off, but because the truth within you was too bright for them to keep hiding in the dark. In the places where they once whispered about you, the words they planted have lost their power. The eyes that once believed the story they created now begin to question. People look at you, at the way you do not react, do not retaliate, do not need to prove anything, and they understand that something has never been told. Your calm reveals the tension in the one who blamed you. Your straight spine reveals the twisted corners in the heart of the one who spoke falsely about you. You do not need to speak. Your presence itself becomes the proof. This is what breaks their masks faster. When they open their mouths to speak of you with the old lines, the listeners no longer see you as they describe. Instead, people begin to notice the shaking in their words, the awkwardness, the unwillingness, the lack of truth. And the masks they built for years fall away like heavy stones dropping from a wall that has just collapsed. You do not see their moments of panic at home, when they look into the mirror and finally see themselves without the familiar disguise. They see emptiness. They see exhaustion. They see a face they hid for so long that they forgot what it looked like. That fear is not fear of you, but fear of themselves. Every time they see you walk by, their hearts pound in a way they cannot control. Not because you threaten them, but because you reflect the truth they have avoided. The truth that much of their life was built on sand, on rolls, on words repeated so often they believed them. And when you stand firm, people no longer believe those old stories. They feel the stage these people once performed on being overturned, and they stand alone before an audience with nothing to say. The story you do not speak becomes an indictment. The things you do not explain become the strongest testimony. And your peace, the very thing they once saw as weakness, becomes the weapon they cannot withstand. In that moment, Psalm 37 rises like gentle water, touching your heart. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Not as a reward, but as a confirmation that you are standing in your rightful place, a place no slander can pull you down from. As you continue walking, you feel the change happening not only in them but in you. You no longer look at them through the old pain. That pain once tightened your chest and made you question your worth. But now when you see them, you feel something different. You see people who have hidden from themselves so long that they no longer know their real face. You are no longer angry. Perhaps a little sad, but not sad for yourself, sad for them. You understand they were never as strong as they pretended. They never held the power they boasted about. They only feared living truthfully so deeply that they built an entire story to cover the smallest part of themselves. And you simply by standing with your own truth caused that story to collapse. What bothers them most is the contrast between two worlds, their world built with polished layers and your world built with truth and silence. They saw truth as an enemy because truth made them feel small. But you stepped into that truth and it opened the way for you in a direction they cannot follow. From afar they think you are creating distance. But no, they created that distance long ago when they chose lies instead of facing the real thing. You only stepped out of that shadow and the distance showed itself. In this new space you no longer feel the need to run from anything. You no longer need to prove you are not what they said. You only need to live. And that life, that honest unscripted life, becomes the one thing they can never have while hiding behind masks. As the masks fall, people begin to see more clearly who is who. They begin to connect the details that never matched. They begin to notice the lack of sincerity. They begin to feel the unstable energy around those who once attacked you. And one by one they step away from the circle your enemies once used to paint themselves with glory. That hurts them more than anything. Because they did not only lose you, they lost the image they once performed in front of others. Lost the fake admiration. Lost the stage. Lost their role. You do not need to defeat them. They defeat themselves. In the soft afternoon breeze as you walk with the lightness you deserve, you feel your heart open like a sky washed clean after a long rain. The light within you is no longer something you must protect from toxic words. It becomes a lamp for yourself and a reflection that leaves no shelter for anything fake. You keep walking with that calmness and the ground beneath your feet seems to change. No longer trembling with fear, no longer shrinking under judgment. It opens like a path guided by truth, a path preparing to take you to a place where your light will collide even more powerfully with what is hidden. And the story enters a new stage where the old earth does not only fall from your shoulders, but where you will watch the traps once set for you become the prisons of the hands that laid them down. As the road opens beneath your feet, the things once hidden begin to reveal themselves in the growing light within you. It is no longer a light that exposes their masks, but a light that shines on the traps they once set, expecting you to fall forever. And strangely, as that light spreads, you notice a scene they never imagined. Those traps are no longer scattered across your path. They have closed around the very ones who set them. Long ago, every step you took had to be careful. They whispered words sharp as blades, spread misunderstandings thin as mist but sharp as shattered glass, and they were confident you would be trapped in them. They built their stories so that whatever you did or said could be twisted to make you look small. Your enemies did not simply want you to fall, they wanted you to believe you would never escape their control. But when you stood up and when the light within you began to move, those traps began to turn. Every lie crafted to make you misunderstood now turns back like a blade touching its maker. Every subtle trap placed under your feet becomes a loop tightening around theirs. And while they try desperately to keep control, they step into their own snare without realizing it. Time does not stand with those who plant harm. Truth is never rushed, but it always arrives on time. When you left the territory where they tried to imprison you with rumors and manipulation, the threads of their schemes no longer clung to you. They remained behind, and the same hands marked with ambition stepped right into them. One step the rope wraps. Another step the loop tightens. And soon they discover they cannot move as freely as before. You do not see them struggling to untie the knots they created. Every lie needs another lie to cover it. Every harmful act needs another layer to hide it. And as they work to conceal everything, they build walls of deception so thick no light can enter. They do not see you outside standing free and steady. They only see the darkness around them growing harder to escape. You understand their traps were not cleverness. They were reactions from a fearful heart, afraid of you rising, afraid of you seeing them, afraid others would see the emptiness within them. That is why they tried to bury you deep. But the deeper a seed is buried, the stronger its roots must grow. And the very things meant to break you became the source of the strength they lack. Psalm 37 spoke a truth you once heard but never fully grasped: the Lord upholds the righteous, he knows the way of the blameless. And now you understand that his protection is not always shielding you from pain. Sometimes it is the way truth arranges everything so that what they sow will sprout before it ever touches you. The traps they set no longer threaten you. Not because they are no longer sharp, but because you no longer walk the path they designed for you. You chose your own way, a path not marked on their maps. And when they chase you to pull you back into the place they once controlled, they only wander deeper into the maze they created. They built that maze with jealousy, one stone for every lie, one stone for every scheme, one stone for every cruel joy they felt when you hurt. And now those stones block them at every turn. Each path they take leads them back to the center where the emptiness they refuse to face waits for them. You do not need to trap them. They trap themselves. Meanwhile, you continue to walk with a lightness that makes them pull their own ropes tighter. Every step you take is a whisper in the wind, reminding them that their efforts to stop you only prove how little they ever understood you. You were never the weak one who needed to be overshadowed to survive. You were the one forged by the very wounds they caused. And when you look back from a distance, the picture becomes clear: you are the only one walking away from the battle unwounded, because you never fought with your hands but with truth. And they who once believed they were smarter and stronger are bound by the very things they used to bind others. A line from Romans comes to your mind: like a stream of water, you reap what you sow. Not as a curse but as an unchanging law. No one escapes what they plant. Neither do they. Seeing this, you feel no triumph. You only see more clearly that you lived rightly when you chose not to repay hate with hate. You were strong in the right way when you chose to rise instead of strike back. And that choice opened a road toward what you were meant to belong to. This freedom did not come easily. It came from every moment you refused to answer lies with lies or cruelty with cruelty. You chose to keep your heart unshaped by their poison, and that choice opened a door they will never cross. Now, as you watch them caught in the maze they made, you understand more than ever that truth is never in a hurry. It waits for its moment. And that moment arrives when you walk forward without looking back, without touching the snares that once aimed to destroy you. You move ahead and the road widens. They remain behind with the ropes tightening around them. And that separation is not the division of hostility but the natural distinction between light and darkness, between the one who stands up and the one who imprisons himself in what he planted. You walk lightly and the wind on the road whispers that what waits ahead is greater than the confinement they placed on themselves. Because your journey does not end at seeing their collapse. It leads you to the part of the story where the strength you carry will reach boundaries you never imagined you could cross. The road beneath your feet widens like a field returned to light after a long winter, and just as you begin to feel that ease, the deepest part of the story appears. The people who once waited for your collapse had prepared a funeral they believed was certain. They thought they would stand around the grave of your spirit smiling with satisfaction as they watched the ruin they invested so much to create. But what they never realized was that while they waited for you to fall, they were the ones walking toward the burial of their own ego, honor, and illusion. They once said you were weak, that you would never rise after your falls. In their eyes you were predictable, easy to break, easy to erase like a passing breeze. They told themselves in the dark that one more push would be enough to destroy you. They even pictured you giving up a scene they imagined so often they believed it already happened. But what they did not see was how quietly you gathered every fragment, every breath, every spark within you to prepare for something they would never foresee. When you rose not with shouting but with the quiet breath of earth after rain, they heard a loud crack that no one else heard, the breaking of everything they had built. Every word they spoke, every story they planted, every look they used to belittle you became evidence against themselves. You stepped up from the ashes they believed would bury you, and they who thought they were attending your funeral found themselves standing in the funeral of their own pride. As you walked past them, they could not say a single word. How could they speak when everything they predicted was wrong? How could they look at you without feeling shame rise behind their eyes? How could they repeat the old story when the person before them was no longer the victim they imagined? Your existence alone erased the entire map they had drawn. And in that moment they realized the only thing that disappeared was not you but them. You walk on not to prove anything but to live. Each step you take echoes in their minds, reminding them how many times they misjudged who you were. They once laughed when you hurt, but now they ache every time they see you stand firm. Not because you harmed them, but because your strength exposes the weakness they tried so hard to hide. You remember every word they said, every tear they caused, every moment you thought your life was ending. But now looking back you see that everything they used to break you only made you stronger. Every betrayal added another layer of steel around your heart. Every abandonment taught you how to stand alone. And every time they believed they won, you learned not to depend on anyone's approval. In the midst of all this, the words of Psalm 118 return to you like a final confirmation: the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. You understand that this was never only for ancient stories. It is for you right now. You are the stone they once saw as worthless. The stone they wanted to set aside. The stone they believed was nothing but excess. And now that very stone becomes the foundation that causes all their calculations to collapse. When they look at you, they see what they never wanted to see. Your strength did not come from luck, but from the very wounds they inflicted. They see a depth they cannot imitate, a steadfastness they cannot learn, and a peace they cannot buy. They see that you did not simply rise, you rose in a way they never imagined. Those who once talked about you now avoid mentioning your name. Not because they forgot, but because every time they say it, another piece of the false story breaks. They do not know how to tell others the truth, that they were wrong, that you not only survived but now live better than they ever wished for themselves. You have become living proof of a truth that stings them deeply. Truth never needs defenders, it only needs time. While they struggle with the ashes of their own reputation, you continue walking into new lands. Each land carries not the scent of old wounds, but the fragrance of pages you have never opened. You feel the wideness of the new journey. It is no longer built on pain but on understanding. No longer anchored in disappointment but in trust. You do not turn back to see how they are. You do not need to. What belongs to truth has already done its work. You do not wait for apologies. You do not need them. You have traveled too far for a late apology to change anything. You keep walking with a heart unburdened and a soul no longer tied to the past. For in the end you realize that what made you strong was not their attempt to bury you, but your refusal to stay buried. You chose to rise. You chose to live. And that choice turned every plan against you into dust. As you leave that part of the road, the sky seems wider. The breeze softer. The ground firmer. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You no longer belong to the places where people tried to define you. You belong to the place where you write your own name with truth. And the journey moves into its next stage, the stage where your refining begins to reveal the true face of love, of release, of sacred connection, where your soul passes through fire not to endure but to shine. As the journey carries you away from old ashes and into new light, something different begins to unfold in your heart. There are no longer heavy steps shaped by fear or defense. Instead, there is a softness you once believed you would never feel again. That softness is not weakness. It is a returning. A returning to yourself after a long season of being twisted by the words, hands, and traps of others. Now every step you take is not only a step across the earth, but a step of the soul finding its true resonance again. As you walk on, you see a truth you once found too painful to face. What you lost was never real love. It was only distorted versions of love shaped by people who never knew how to love. They did not love you, they loved the feeling of having power over you. They did not cherish you, they cherished the place you held in the story they created for themselves. And when their masks fell, you realized you never had anything real from them to grieve. In the space left behind by what was false, something true begins to enter. You understand that real love never makes you shrink so someone else can grow. It never demands you lose yourself so someone can find themselves in you. Real love does not ask you to seek permission to exist. It does not ask you to cry so someone else can sleep comfortably. Real love requires courage, not endurance. Freedom, not clinging. And you are learning again how to love without losing yourself. Letting go is no longer a loss. It becomes an art. You let go of the hands that held you down so your wings no longer drag through old mud. You let go of voices that cut your heart so the voice within you, the one you had forgotten, can rise again. You let go of relationships you once treasured because you understand that cherishing cannot replace truth. And as the old layers fall away, something unexpected appears: new connection. Not the kind formed from dependence, but the kind born from recognition, like two souls who once wandered in darkness now recognizing each other's light without speaking. You begin meeting people who are not afraid of your strength, who do not see your light as a threat. They do not need you smaller to feel safe. They do not need you dimmer to shine. They come close not to take but to walk with. You notice how the universe brings people and events toward you differently now. No one enters your life to feed on your energy. Those who come now carry peace like a new breath. You recognize them by the way they do not try to adjust you, do not try to place you in a role, do not ask you to be a more acceptable version of yourself. They touch your world as if touching a garden tended for a long time, not to pick but to admire with respect. In this unfolding, a line from Psalm 91 walks beside you: whoever dwells in the secret place of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. You feel that this is not only a promise but a truth unfolding. You once took refuge in pain, lived in a shadow others built. But now you find a new refuge, the very light you protected. That light was not given by them. It is the result of the inner battle you won with honesty. Those who once stood with your enemies begin to see the difference. They see you no longer tremble under judgment. They see you no longer shrink under coldness. They see a peace in you that is not a mask but a strength. And when they see this, they understand they chose the wrong side in a battle they should never have taken part in. The irony of life is this: when you become your truest self, you begin to attract the truest things. And when you look back, you know that without the collapses you would never have learned how to touch that truth. There are mornings you step outside and the world feels wider. Not because it changed but because you open to what is real. You feel the wind no longer as a stranger but as a blessing. The light does not overwhelm you because it is already within you. Each step is no longer a calculation of where you can go without pain, it becomes a question of where you are being called to grow. You begin to love without fearing that love will be used as a weapon against you. You learn to open your heart not with recklessness but with understanding. You love not to be filled but to walk alongside. Love becomes not a place where you lose yourself but a place where you see yourself more clearly. This reconnection with yourself becomes a release from every energy that once pulled you down. You realize the loneliness that once terrified you was the very teacher that kept you from the wrong hands. And now that you know how to stand within it, that loneliness steps aside so a higher form of connection can enter. You no longer ask who will love me. You ask whose heart can walk with this light. That maturity makes everything within you more whole. You know what should stay, what should leave, what should be held, and what should be released. And as you walk forward, you feel a cleansing strength, as if your soul is being moved through another fire, but this time not to endure but to shine. You understand that what lies ahead is no longer traps, no longer darkness, no longer the stories others wrote. It is the part of the journey where you transform from survivor to bearer of light. From the tested one to the entrusted one. From the buried one to the lifted one. And as you look toward the horizon opening before you, you know that what comes next is not just the continuation of the journey but the moment when the light within you reaches its own crescendo, where everything that once tried to break you becomes the fuel for the most radiant transformation of your life. The light within you is no longer just a quiet flame guiding your way. It begins to rise in a way that makes even the old shadows step back. And in that moment your gentle journey shifts into a deeper layer, a layer that is no longer only about healing or letting go but about transformation. A transformation so steady and powerful that you feel the change in your heartbeat as if the universe were turning around a new center point, and that center is your own soul. You once thought everything you went through was only meant to help you stand again. But a greater truth begins to appear. All the trials, the long nights, the breaking points, all of them were not meant for your survival alone. They were meant for your rebirth. A rebirth your old self could never imagine. A rebirth that makes every word spoken about you lose all its weight. You feel yourself step into a new field of energy where everything within you becomes clear. The pain is no longer a thorn but a light shining from your center. The wounds are no longer holes but windows into a strength you had never touched before. You look back at the moments that once brought you to your knees, and instead of tears you see gold. Gold forged under the heat of betrayal. Gold formed from pressure, loss, and loneliness. And that gold is now your soul. When those who once wanted to watch you fall look at you now, they cannot understand how you became so strong. They cannot understand why you smile when they expected you to collapse. They cannot understand how something in you kept living when they themselves could not survive half of what you endured. But that is something they can never know. Some souls are chosen for testing, not to be destroyed but to become what they were destined to be. The deeper you step into this light, the more you realize the struggles of the past no longer hold you. They are as light as dust in the wind. You can look at them without your heart tightening. You can speak the names of those who hurt you without feeling darkness rise. You can walk past the places that once shook you without needing to grip your hands to stay steady. This is the sign of true transformation, when pain loses its power inside you. In that moment you feel as if someone has placed a soft garment on your shoulders, not the armor of a tired warrior but the garment of one who has passed through every layer of testing and now enters their own land. A land where you no longer walk from fear but from calling. No longer seek approval but purpose. No longer worry about how others see you but only ask, where does the light within me want to go? This transformation is not the result of one heroic act but of countless moments when you chose to rise even when no one saw. Countless nights when you cried but still opened your eyes the next morning. Countless times your heart was crushed but you still kept a piece of softness for yourself. These are the things that made you different. You did not rise because you hardened but because you became resilient. Not because you turned cold but because you chose compassion. Not because you ignored the pain but because you faced it until it dissolved. Your transformation causes the light within you to spread in a way no one can stop. Those who touch your energy now feel something purifying. As if you were a clear stream passing through places that once held darkness. Not because you try to influence anyone but because real light always carries its own reach. They feel peace without knowing why. They feel hope without speaking it. And many, just by watching you live, begin to believe that they too can rise from what once felt impossible. Meanwhile, those who once hoped for your downfall feel the opposite. Your rising makes the darkness inside them feel tight. They are haunted by the idea that they may have been wrong about you from the beginning. They look at your life and realize no trap, no rumor, no betrayal can touch the level you now stand on. They see that while they remain imprisoned in the shadows they created, you have stepped into a light they cannot enter. And that itself is a consequence they never expected. As you look ahead, you see a great door opening. Not a door of revenge, not a door of outer victory. It is the door of union between your heart and the self that has been refined. You feel like you are standing on the meeting point of two worlds, the old world full of echoes from what once tried to destroy you, and the new world where the light does not come from outside but radiates from the center of your soul. You step closer to that door, knowing that once you cross it you will no longer be the person who entered this journey. You will no longer be the one who rose from ashes. You will no longer be the one stitched together by your own effort. You will become the one who carries complete light in a way even pain cannot fully explain. This is not recovery. This is not simply rising again. This is transformation, the point where your soul merges with the light it was always meant to hold. And in that moment you understand that the next chapter of your journey is not a place to prove anything. It is the place you belong. The place where the sacred calling is clearest. The place where the deepest part of you will be revealed to become a message not only for you but for those still wandering in their own darkness. You walk forward ready for what is coming because what lies ahead is no longer about pain but about the light you were chosen to carry. When you step through the threshold of the light that has just opened, a strange stillness spreads out like a lake without a ripple. Not the stillness of loneliness but of truth. A truth that has waited for you for a very long time across trials and humiliation and nights when you had to gather yourself with trembling hands. Now as you stand in full light you feel that everything that ever happened, no matter how cruel or confusing, is forming one message greater than any spoken word. You look back at your life and it no longer appears as scattered events but as a single flowing river held together by a purpose you once could not see. Every betrayal opened doors you never imagined. Every abandonment forced you to return to the strongest part of your heart. Every moment that felt like an ending became the beginning of a deeper layer of your soul. You realize that every pain had tried to teach you something, but only now are you still enough to hear it. What is strange is that looking back you no longer see yourself as a character pushed into darkness. You see yourself as a river shaped by all the rocks that once blocked your flow. No stone ever stopped you forever, but each one carved depth into you. You understand that not every blow was destruction. Some blows were meant to reveal the true metal you carry. And now the light reflects clearly from that metal. In this brightness you hear a line rise from deep within, Psalm 46, "Be still and know that I am God." That line is no longer a verse you once read. It becomes the heartbeat of this whole journey. The stillness you carry, the peace you hold, the strength that does not need to argue, all of it is proof that you are walking under a guidance greater than every betrayal, greater than every noise, greater than every storm. As you stand in this light you begin to understand that your rising is not only personal healing. It is a signal. A reminder for wandering souls, for those crushed by wrong voices, for those who believe they will always be shaped by hurt. You understand that your existence in this moment is a living sign of something profound. People may bury you, but they cannot stop you from growing. And then, as if the universe wants to seal this truth, a number begins to appear in unexpected moments: 777. It appears in a glance, in a time you catch by accident, in a line of text passing by, a small sign repeating too perfectly to be coincidence. When that number touches you, you understand it is a confirmation the rising of your soul has reached its appointed hour. 777 is not only a symbol of completeness, it is the mark of personal revelation, the moment truth within you awakens fully, no longer covered by anyone else's shadow. And if someone hearing this feels that number touch them, it is not random. It is an invitation calling them to. The brighter the truth becomes, the more clearly you see the falsehoods that once wrapped around your life. But what is remarkable is that this clarity no longer makes you angry. It makes you understanding. You see that the ones who hurt you did not live in the light, not because they did not want to, but because they could not. The light exposes too much for them to face. They lived like people wearing masks to fight their own fears, not to fight you. And seeing that you feel lighter. You no longer want revenge. You no longer want them to witness your rise and ache because of it. You only want to walk forward because the light within you is now greater than any need to prove something. You want to live by truth, not by reaction. Shine naturally, not to blind anyone. Standing in this light, you understand that you carry a message beyond your personal story. A message that every soul has the right to rise without asking permission from those who tried to shrink them. A message that truth never trembles before lies, it simply waits for its time. A message that what tried to break you was really leading you toward the strongest version of yourself. You feel yourself like a tree growing from trampled ground, trunk stronger, leaves greener, roots deeper than anyone could see. And that makes you understand the words in Isaiah 60, "Arise, shine, for your light has come." Not a light given to you by others, but the light you kept alive in the dark for many years. It is no longer a fragile flame. It is the sun of your soul. You look toward the horizon opening before you and realize that the final stretch of this journey is not an ending. It is a blessing. A blessing offered to those listening, reminding them they too are chosen, they too are called, they too are touched by light. But before that blessing arrives, you stand still in this moment, the moment of absolute truth, where you no longer ask who you are. You know. You are the one who rose from the grave others dug for you. The one tested to become light. The one carrying a message that cannot be extinguished. And the journey is about to reach its final arc, not to close but to open a completely new chapter, a chapter where you become a blessing to yourself and to those searching for a way out of a darkness they are not yet strong enough to face alone. The moment you pause in that light feels like standing between the final breath of a long night and the first heartbeat of a dawn the world has never seen. There are no whispers from the past calling you back. No footsteps of darkness chasing you. Only an open expanse ahead, quiet and clear, as if the universe itself has paused the wind so you can hear your own soul. And in that stillness the greatest truth of your journey finally rises. You did not only survive. You did not only rise. You have become a testimony. You understand that the light within you is not meant to be kept for yourself. It is an invitation. An invitation for those who are falling where you once fell, for those curled in the same dark corners you once knew, for those who believe they are small in the same ways you once believed. And you know that if even one soul hears this story and discovers their worth, your journey has fulfilled its purpose. From where you stand, you look back at the long road you walked. Not with regret or pain but with understanding. Every loss you once mistook for punishment was actually refinement. Every separation that once crushed you was a doorway pulling you away from places that were never meant for you. Every betrayal that pierced your heart was a sign that you were being lifted to a level they could not follow. You understand that life never closes a door in front of you without opening a larger one behind it. But to see the larger door you must be brave enough to leave the smaller one. And the miracle is that throughout this whole journey, even when you could not see or feel it, you were never walking alone. Psalm 121 rises within you as final confirmation. The Lord will guard your coming and your going from this time forth and forever. You realize that without that protection you would not be standing here. The soft light on the horizon grows clearer, as if painting a path directly into the sky. You feel yourself no longer tied to your old limits. No longer the one who needs permission to exist. No longer the one who bends to fit someone else's expectations. You are the one who carries truth. And that truth is your lamp. You think about those who once wanted you to sink. Strangely, you feel no hatred. You see them as wandering souls fighting their own darkness more than they ever fought you. Their shadows touched your life only because you stood too close. Now that you have walked far beyond their reach, their darkness no longer touches you. And you know your rising is the lesson they must face, a lesson no one teaches, a lesson they must witness. But your journey no longer turns around them. It turns toward what is ahead. You feel the light calling you like a breeze, gentle yet unmistakable. You take one small step and the ground seems to glow beneath you. You take another and your heart opens like a door freshly oiled. Every step is a declaration that you no longer belong to darkness. Every step confirms you have passed the drought of the soul. In that quiet you feel as if an unseen hand rests on your shoulder, not heavy, not urging, just a presence of peace. A blessing. A confirmation that the old cycle is complete and you enter the new one with the purity of someone who passed the test without losing their essence. You understand that this transformation was never to make you someone else but to bring you back to the most beautiful form of who you are. You stand in that space and let the light rise across your face. You breathe in deeply as if inhaling an entirely new life. And as you breathe out, the heaviest parts of your soul fall away like dust. If someone listening to this journey feels a number echo inside them, a sign like a lamp in the night, the number 777, it is not coincidence. It is a calling. A reminder that they too are at a turning point, preparing to step into their own light. And if they feel that, let them speak the number that resonates within them, because sometimes speaking it is how the soul affirms its own transition. You look ahead knowing you have changed. But that change does not make you proud. It makes you humble. Because you know no one survives everything alone. There were moments you were carried. Moments you were held. Moments you were saved from things you could not see. And that is why you do not walk like someone showing victory but like someone filled with gratitude. In that gratitude the words of Isaiah 41 rise soft as breath. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. That line is no longer comfort. It is guidance. It is the reason you stand firm. It is the reason you never bow to what once terrified you. You take another step and you know this is not an ending. This is the bridge between darkness and day, between pain and meaning, between surviving and living true. You carry light, and that light is not something you have. It is something you have become. And before the door of light opens fully before you, the final blessing of the journey touches your heart. A blessing not from the storyteller or the world but from the truth you protected with all you had. You are kept. You are guided. You are chosen. If anyone listening feels even a small opening of light within them, let that light grow. Let this journey remind them that they are not lost. They are being called. And if they are ready, they can share what they feel so their light can be affirmed in words. You draw one deep breath. You step into the light. The journey does not end. It has just begun.
Grateful that you chose to spend these moments in the light of this story. If it touched your soul, please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so the next whisper of light may find its way back to you.